Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live. It is good to have you with us as I just try. There we go. Great to have you here. Tonight, I'm looking forward to a conversation with Phil Svehla. Just before I invite him on, though, I just want to remind you that you can always find our past episodes of the Thursday Night Lives on Sanders Baptist Church Facebook feed, their YouTube channel, or also my YouTube channel. There's some great stories and little insights and thoughts that might help you out as you journey along in this life. And so I just encourage you with that. Well, let's get Phil on here. Phil, welcome.
Hello. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. And one thing I meant to ask you before we got started is Phil Svehla. What is Svehla? Svehla? Is that right?
You got it. Well done.
And where does Svehla's come from?
From the great Czech Republic, the land of hockey and some tennis and history. Prague.
Okay. Prague, all right.
Yes.
Hockey, that makes sense. So who's the tennis player that comes out of your neck of the woods?
So it kind of goes back in time. So for those who are like my age and older, Ivan Lendl, Martina Navratilova are some of the kind of well-known names. I've been less involved in watching the tennis scene now, so I don't know. There are probably some Czech, but I don't know who's hot and coming there now.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So when you tell me you're a tennis player, I should actually maybe be a little more afraid if I'm thinking of challenging you.
I'm rusty, so no worries.
As a younger man to an old man. Phil, it's great to have you on here. Maybe just give us a little bit more about who Phil Svehla is. You live out, I think, on the peninsula. What kind of work you're in? I know you've got a family. Yeah, maybe just give us a little taste of who you are.
Absolutely. So moved over to the peninsula 5 years ago, almost to the day actually coming up from the Lower Mainland. My wife Anna and I attend the Centennial Park campus. We have 4 children ranging in age from 12, just turned 12, all the way down to 3. And so that fills a lot of our day. My day job is software development manager. So lead a couple of teams for a software company that's located in Montreal, actually. A kind of a fast growing, kind of a startup-y kind of company called EliaCare.
Nice. Yeah. Now, do you have to speak any French?
They have been gracious. And I kind of joke about it. So I'll throw out a few French words here and there, and they just kind of laugh at me. But no, it's absolutely no, which is good.
Are you feeling like you have to be cheering for the Canadians right now?
Oh, there have been a few references dropped. That's been more in some of the general channels. I have been able to stay clear of that. So phew, but that may be something that I need to think about coming ahead.
They're doing well, so you might just want to enjoy that with your fellow employees. Phil, you talk about having 4 kids, man. Carla and I had 4 kids. Your hands are definitely full. But you were telling me last night that before you had kids, you and Anna entered into a pretty unique and special, season and expression of generosity. You told me that you might have changed between 10 and 15,000 diapers. Could you expand on that just a little bit?
So when I get to do trivia and icebreakers with new team members, I love to kind of share that one thing that's unique about me is probably the number of diapers that I've changed. And Anna and I are foster parents. We've been fostering for 14 years now, I think. And so a lot of that has been with younger children, kind of 3 and under. So hence diapers.
Oh, man. Yeah. Wow. You mentioned the other day when we were talking that one of the joys of fostering is that you've been able to continue on with some of the relationships, and we're able to celebrate with one of them recently.
Yeah. One of our foster children had his 13th birthday just on Tuesday. And he has a special place in our heart. He came to us at, was it 1 day old? He was
Wow.
really young. And we had his older sister already in our home for a year. So this was the first time we had a newborn in our home. And so we've kept in touch with him and his sister throughout these years. So 13, right? He's been with us from day one, and then he was with us for 2 years. And then we've just kept in touch over that time.
Wow. That's really cool. Whenever I hear stories like this, Phil, my mind just goes right to where does this kind of generosity sort of come from?
I wish I could say that it was like the top of the thing on our mind. I think that God works in mysterious ways, and my ways are definitely not his. And so Anna and I found out we were not able to conceive. And as a result of that, we looked at some options out there and decided, there's a really big need for fostering. And so that's the kind of the avenue that we pursued. And it lines up, like I had interests way before, even in my university years, of getting involved in orphanages and stuff. But it wasn't something that kind of was top of mind when I got married.
Okay, now hold on. Well, there's so many places we could go. I mean, I need to make notes. But you're in university, I'm presuming, studying computer stuff, and yet this computer nerd has this. Sorry, I called you a nerd. But he's got this softness, like this sensitivity side to him. This nurturing thing where you're thinking about orphanages while you're cracking code. That's pretty cool.
Well, thanks for the compliment, Lindsay. I think it's just something that I don't know, I had a soft spot for. Yeah, just part of who I guess I am. And fortunate that Anna has the same heart. And foster parents are some of the kind of heroes in my life. When I hear about what they do and what they take on, it's amazing.
Yeah. Got a family close to where we live who foster kids, and I just look at them and I think the same thing. It's amazing to me, and well done. So out of some personal pain and some maybe sense of hopelessness, God used you to bring a safe place, a home for some kids. That's pretty amazing.
Totally. Yeah. And it's opened my eyes to what is life like through other people's lens. I would look at the police. I've grown up with a sense that the police are here to protect me, and I've seen through the children that we care for that they see police and they think they're here to possibly take me away from my parents, or to kind of see things just from a totally different perspective. And that's, just made me realize how different our worlds can be.
Yeah. Okay, so you talk about business. You are not French speaking, but you're going to make sure that you get on the Montreal Canadiens bandwagon. That would be a good business choice, I would say, right now. Leading a couple of teams, I'm thinking Phil Svehla wasn't always a team lead. What have you learned as you went from being led to now you're leader, and what are some things around that you've learned?
That's a really good question. That I don't know everything. Maybe age has helped with that, but
Okay.
but also leading and different people, different situations, different perspectives. So I think learned to listen, and learned to to be able to work through conflict. I think some of that comes through even marriage and other relationships, but in a different sense, professionally, I think as well. Um, yeah, to be able to build teams that are kind of cohesive and have a shared purpose and shared goal, and just to have fun along the way of doing it. Like working in a team can be so fulfilling when you're all working in the same direction.
Are your projects, do they tend to be long term? Like, are they year type things, 6 months? Are they bite size? What kind of?
Yeah, good question. They're generally smaller, kind of month long
Okay.
projects. Some of them are even smaller. It depends. One of the team works on kind of away on one product, chipping away on kind of smaller incremental improvements, and another is kind of building kind of bigger pieces of functionality.
Yeah. So Phil, you are Phil the man. You are Phil the dad. You are Phil the husband. Phil the neighbor. You're Phil the team leader. One thing that I know that you want to find its way through all of your life is your faith, and that is a very significant a part of your life, I know. What does that kind of look like day to day? How does that play out for you?
Well, I think that it grounds me. I think that my worldview is based out of my beliefs, out of Scripture, and one of those key things I think there is that humankind is made in the image of God. And everyone I come across with, my teammates, my neighbors, are all image bearers of God, and how I interact with them should reflect that. I think that's a big one. And then I think the values that I have, kind of based out of kind of what we see in the New Testament in terms of loving God with all our heart, strength, loving our kind of fellow person as well. So the two great commands. So I think those are some of the big things that that impact and how I lead and how I live.
Okay, so you use that phrase, and that is a phrase we talk about. We're all image bearers, but someone could come along and say, "Yeah, so what? I guess being a jerk, or I don't know." So what does that mean? Okay, they're an image bearer.
So I think that for me, it's about trying to understand where the person comes from. And one of the values that I love about AlayaCare, where I'm working, is assume good intent. And so rather than go into something and go, okay, this person is trying to take something apart intentionally, to go in and with that assumption that we're on the same team. Overall, we have the same goal, and to understand what the person's perspective might be, what their concerns might be, what they would suggest, and to listen to that and to be able to share perspectives and then to be able to work through that.
That is a great statement that your business has. Assume, give others the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, interesting. Wow. I think we could use that in our mainstream life. I think you probably could use that at home. Hey?
Yes, absolutely. That's a really good one. Yeah.
So rhythms in your life, you're not quite as young as you used to be. You strike me. We talked about this. You're a lifelong learner. You haven't settled, kind of thing. What is that lifelong learner? What are some of the rhythms and practices that have helped develop Phil? and you're looking to as you continue to move forward?
Oh, well, I think that one of those that has, I think, had a big impact on me is self-reflection. To be able to come outside of myself and kind of look at what is going on around me, look at what is going on inside of me, and to understand the link between what's inside of me and my behaviors. To be able to observe kind of the other situations around me, and rather than me come at them in my relationships with Anna or my children and kind of bring my own biases into them, to be able to step outside of that and to be able to try to look at that more objectively, and just to process my own challenges in my life. So self-reflection. So I've done some journaling, and I continue to do journaling. I wish I did it more, but I'll write thoughts down. Oftentimes when it's kind of when things are challenging, then I'll kind of write things down, and then they're praise items, and I'll write those down as well. So that's been really helpful for me. And I think also, like, starting the day with prayer is something that I've found that has really helped me too. And so I'm trying to do that more consistently. But I find that that's a great piece, as well as just even going out for a run. So, like, we live in such an amazing place here on the island, and with the daylight starting early, just to enjoy that. And I have got a park close by where we live, so just run in the park. So those are some of the things I think that I've been learning, and part of my rhythm.
Yeah, we are living in a unique season. I think we're on our way out of COVID. At least I think we're starting to be able to see it from here. But if I understand correctly from men and women much smarter than I, there's going to be a bit of a hangover for a while. There's going to be some lingering challenges. We've certainly seen, and I was just reading in the newspaper again tonight, just some of the things around mental health and some of the struggles people are having. And I know that's something that matters to you in wanting to help others. So when you talk about self-reflection, Phil, I can hear somebody possibly starting to self-reflect and it turning into like this own sort of self almost hate session. They just look at their life and they start kind of beating themselves up and almost crushing themselves because of missed expectations or reflecting on things that maybe from their past and things. I'm not sure that's what you're saying. What's involved in a healthy bit of self-reflection?
That's a good question. I think it's as an initial point, to start kind of, for me personally, writing those thoughts when they're in my head. It's all mixed up together. So to write them down helps me to be able to separate some of those thoughts, and then to be able to see just what kind of patterns come out of that. And so, for example, if there's a negativity that's coming out of that, or there's bitterness that has happened in my life coming out of that, to be able to understand, what is that? Is there an injustice, or is there something that I'm bringing from my past into this, some expectation gap, and to go into it with curiosity.
Interesting. Just noticed my battery just about ran out. I didn't plug it in. Look at that. We're still going. Oh, Phil.
What's that? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah. So we grab a journal, a piece of paper, whatever. It doesn't have to be a journal. It can just be a piece of paper, and we just start writing down some of the things that are taking place internally. Is this what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. And starting to question a little bit about where they're coming from. You talked about expectations. Are there injustices that are kind of getting us? Wonderful. We've discovered some of these things. We've written them down, and there truly is a release in just some of that. But then, what do we kind of do with it?
That's a really good question.
What do you do with it?
What do I do with it? Well, I think so. Going back to the idea of of patterns is kind of recognizing, okay, is this something that's a one-off, or is this something that's recurring? And so all of us in the range of our emotions will experience highs and lows. And so some of those, if we take lows, for example, are contextual. And so there's a loss that I've felt maybe, then I'm going to feel some of these. And that's part of our design that God created us, the full range of emotions. But if I look at that and I see that that's happening repeatedly, then that's something that I would express some curiosity about and kind of go, okay, what could be going on there, and share that with other people, or seek other mental health professionals, or a couple of the ideas, I guess.
Yeah. I think the idea, whether it's someone professional or not, but someone who is safe to have a conversation with, who can walk with you.
Yeah.
So so you talked about God has, or I guess I mentioned that God plays a big role in your life, and you've talked a little bit about that. I'm thinking when you're in that self-reflection stage, that you're bringing God into that. And how are you doing that? Like, we might say, well, I'm praying about it. What does that mean? Let's break that really practical. What would that mean?
Oh, that's a good one. I think I need to think a little bit more about that one. I've been, I have to get back to you on that one, Lindsay.
Okay. Fair. No, that's totally fair. The reason I was asking is I thought you were saying some really great things just around, like you used the word, if something is happening on a regular basis, I might get curious around that. And Phil, I think you are, you strike me as someone who has worked, probably pretty hard on your own sort of mental stability and things. And although your life has not always been easy, you have found some good rhythms, some good practices. You found some incredible strength from God. And so to lean into that with curiosity, I can see that almost being a natural thing for you now, maybe just in the way you're talking. And I'm wondering for those who maybe aren't quite where you're at now, how do we get to that curiosity in a safe and significant way?
Ooh.
Yeah. What are some of the values that we can bring from God that would give us some safety around that? Is something that as I was listening to you, I thought, I wonder what we can find there.
Yeah, I think that we have that benefit of being known completely by our Creator, by God. And in being known, that means all the amazing stuff, but also the not so amazing, the stuff that would separate us from Him, or other people dislike. And so we have that sense that in spite of all that, God loved us so much that He sent Jesus for us. And so that there's a sense that He has accepted us in spite of all that. And so that our worth, if it's in humankind, that will have a very different impact on us than if our worth is founded in God. And I think that that's one lesson that I'm still learning, right? Like, it's one thing to say it, but it's a little bit harder to kind of to live it.
To have it break in and actually transform us. I think for me, sometimes I literally have to remind myself of some of the stories of Jesus with some of the people who, they had some pasts and some presents that maybe weren't all that pretty. And when I see some of that and I recognize and I see the heart of Jesus towards them, I begin to realize, oh, wait a minute. Maybe he's got the same heart for me. And you know, he does. He just really does. You know, the story, one of the stories we talk so much about, the woman at the well who was on to her fifth, significant relationship, fifth marriage, really. And yet he just leaned in. He just loved her. I think of Peter, the denying him. Yeah. So for me, that's one of the rhythms and practices I'll try to do, is just be reminded of some of those stories as well. Can be really helpful. So journaling, praying has been good for you. Can I just ask you specifically, when you talk about your journaling, I know you said it often happens more in crunch time when you're struggling. Hey, doesn't it for all of us, right? Like that tends to be a lot for all of us. So not that I'm asking you to read your journal at all, but some people go, what would I even write? I don't even know what that would mean. And what does that do for me?
I think that it releases what's inside, because I think that we hold on to things, and I think that the act of putting it onto paper is kind of a metaphor or a symbol of it kind of leaving us to some extent. And there's the sense of externalizing. And so that is actually what it's doing. Instead of sharing with a person, you're externalizing it. And so it makes it easier to be able to then also look at it after, if you want to be able to reflect on it. But sorry, I don't know if I quite answered your question there. I feel like I didn't.
Well, you did. You're actually talking. I was asking maybe even just the idea of what you would write.
What? Yes.
I love what you said, though. So that just the very practice is a part of releasing it, and there's some healing and things just in getting it out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what would be something that would have been recent? This is another thing, actually, for me personally. My memory is a bit of a sieve, and so I can write my thoughts, and that's a way to help me to reflect, because I forget what I did last week or how I felt. And so it's helpful for me to even gauge my growth, to go back. This is how I felt. I would say something that would be challenging. I would be like, okay, I was going to have a meeting at work that was kind of heavy on my heart, because I suspect that there could be some conflict because of the subject matter that we're going to be discussing. And there might be something small in the day that God has put in that was unexpected, and that just kind of went, I go, thanks God for the encouragement. Or it's simply just to be able to process, okay, this day, that meeting was challenging, and this is what I kind of took away from it, so that when I'm in a similar type of meeting next time, I might give myself an idea of what to try differently.
Okay. So in what you're saying there is value to maybe actually having some little journal, so that you can actually go back and reflect and maybe, revisit some things. Yeah. You know what, Phil, sometimes just the very practical things can be helpful, because we just get a little stuck. Yeah.
It's something really interesting, I think, too. I think that journaling is like sharing it with a piece of paper. It's not a person, but in a sense, it's kind of like it was a person, but it may feel a little bit safer for us than to be able to share that with a person. And so it's just one step that might help.
Yeah, I'm like you. I have done journaling off and on, and here's what's been going on lately as I journal. And I don't journal every day. That's not my practice. But what I do is I actually just sort of view it almost as really a conversation that I'm having with God. So I'm actually, my sentences are horrible. No one else can read it. But it's broken. It's half thoughts and everything, but it's just me expressing some of the things that are going on in my own brain, questions that I have. Like I've noticed, like I've gone back and I've gone, oh, that's interesting. I wrote a question, or I wrote, here, God, here's something I'd like to learn about you in a greater way. Could you help me with that? And I'm just trying to learn how to almost converse through the sharing of these things. There's no right or wrong way, I guess, is what we're saying. It can just be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes I kind of see where you were trying to take this, and maybe I didn't quite follow. Sorry.
Good.
Was that, yeah, sometimes I'm asked questions. Sometimes I come up with hypotheses. Sometimes I just vent, right? Absolutely. It can take various forms at various times. And sometimes it's well formed, sometimes it's less formed. I type it up, so at least it's legible back to me. Because if I printed it, I probably wouldn't be able to read it in 5 years from now. So, and I'm faster on the computer than I am handwritten. So
that could be a generational thing right there. Well, we were talking, and I'm always just intrigued of how God leads people, and you've. As I said, you're this guy in university who's working on, I don't even know what computer language is, right? You're grinding away in this very scientific sort of thing, and yet you are feeling and you're sensing God leading you and developing you and giving you a heart for kids who, like, how has God led you? Yeah, if you were to say, hey, God led me, and I go, what does that mean? How would you explain that? That would be helpful for others to lean into.
Yeah, I think it's been very organic for me. It's been God opening up certain doors, God closing other doors. And so when we look at the challenge that we had with conceiving, it wasn't our own original plan. And so there was a temporary door closed. And because our heart was still to invite children into our home to look for other things. And later I did a degree in counseling, actually. And that came about as just a kind of a pivotal point, kind of pivoting point in my career, kind of as I thought, hey, as I go to the next kind of 20 years in my career, where am I interested in going? What are my passions? And then last year, I fell out of a tree and I broke my neck. Absolutely praise God that I'm alive and that I'm not paralyzed. Yeah. And that was another kind of opportunity to go, okay, God, I think you're reminding me that some of the things that I'm striving for, such as my own kind of career growth, are not kind of what is in your economy, what's important to you. And so it's these kind of moments where God kind of has to shake me. And maybe for other people, it's not necessary. But for me, it seems like that's how he leads. And then there's a piece there where other people speaking into kind of my life. So as I've been thinking kind of about things, then other people will speak in and say, hey, Phil, have you thought about this? And so it kind of goes, oh, no. But it fits into kind of, I think, how God has been leading in other ways. So a combination of, I guess, circumstances and people.
Yeah. So with those people, are you saying you're inviting them into that space and giving them, if you like, some agency, some authority into this for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So sharing kind of what's been happening and some of the things that I'm learning and kind of open to their perspectives, so that I don't have my own kind of personal biases leading me down one way and missing maybe what God may be trying to tell me, since I'm already rely so heavily on broken necks and various other things to guide me.
Interesting. Yeah. You brought us back, and you reminded us of the story of the challenge for you and Anna to have children, and you made the comment almost what did you say? You said a temporary setback, and I'm thinking a temporary setback. You are both such nurturing people, and it seemed like your heart was just so much for kids. Like that must have been a challenge. Yeah, how did you sort of go through that, and then find this other avenue with kids? Or
So for me, I think I was in that non-reflective part of my life.
okay.
So it impacted me less. And I think Anna really carried that a whole lot more. And I think I wish I could have been there more for her in that space. And so we kind of more independently journey through that. And me kind of like, okay, so yeah, this is a big loss, but okay, we can look at other things. And I think there was a grieving process for Anna. And then I say temporary because we're not where we were back in time. We now have our own children that we've conceived. And so God in his graciousness and through some of the wonders of modern medicine has also helped us to have that, but we did not expect that. We had given up hope.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Phil, so much to talk about. Yeah. Any last things? We're kind of running out of time here. Any other things that you were thinking? I'd just love to share a little bit. I mean, you talk about almost losing, your paralysis and things. What were those moments like with God? Were there any, clenching of fists? Was there just was it just all thanks you, God? How did you process that?
Yeah, well, like, why me? Like, I feel like there's some responsibility there, that I need to take accountability that God has given me the second chance. And so to really lean into that. Absolutely. So really it was a lot of thankfulness, because it could have been so much worse. Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise, just in terms of parting words, I would just be encouraging people, hang in there with I know COVID has been hard for all of us, and it seems like it's just dragging on and on. And I think we're nearing. Doesn't mean it's right around the corner, but moving to being able to open up and look forward to seeing everyone again in person.
Yeah. We're getting there, Phil. We really are. There's no doubt about it. Well, Phil, thanks for coming on tonight and opening up your life a little bit and sharing some of your ups and downs. Remember, go Habs. I can't believe I'm saying that. Man, if Steve is seeing this, he's just blown away. But yeah, lean into those Habs and yeah, just thanks for the words, the thoughtful words to know that God has us. God loves us, and we're safe in his arms. That's kind of what I was getting from you. We might have some mess ups, some screw ups. We're going to have issues, but doesn't scare God away, and he's got us. So thanks for sharing. Everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. I just encourage you again, if you're interested in just checking out some of the other episodes on Sandwich Baptist Facebook or YouTube channel, or you can check out my YouTube channel, and the other episodes are there. God bless. Enjoy this beautiful weather we're having. Thanks again, Phil.
Thank you.